Okay, here we are. So, welcome everybody to She's of Love. This week we have Beverley Iffla on the podcast, which is always
Yeah.
a exciting, I always know it's going to be an exciting and very in-depth episode. So thank you for coming on. I'm really looking forward to hearing your wisdom once again. You're very wise, so I'm open to receiving. That's my big
Oh,
intention today.
thank you, Juliet.
All good. So, our topic for today is around innocence and the importance of innocence. And I think
Mm,
this is like a really interesting um, subject to talk about because I don't know, I feel like number one, it's not spoken about much at all, and innocence can kind of be misconstrued into naivety and
mm.
stupidity, even. Um,
Yes,
and
My
yeah,
thoughts exactly. Yeah.
mm,
yes.
Mm,
That's what I
so
was thinking too.
yeah, with that,
mm.
I'll give the microphone over to you, Bev, and I'll just let you speak however you want. Take us down the road and we'll follow along.
Thank you, Juliet. Nice to be back, actually. I haven't seen your
Yes,
shining
it's good to have
faces
you
for a
back, Bev.
while. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And hello, everybody out there watching.
Mm,
Um, yeah, so I was exactly the same as you when I was contemplating our call today, and innocence does not mean naivety.
no.
Um, it's not like you come back in as the innocent baby, because we have a lot of wisdom, but the innocence that I see is our innocence in enjoyment, like enjoying
Mm,
being in nature, enjoying being with people, just that enjoyment of interacting with life around you without all the programming, without all
Yes.
those preconceived ideas of what you're doing. And it's actually not that easy to get to it because we are
Mm,
programmed into right from the very word go. So I was contemplating all this, I was thinking about my own innocence as I was growing up, and the fact that I could go into the bush and I could play with nature, but I learnt very early to shut down what I knew, what I observed in the human realm. Um, like I learnt, I'm trying to think how old I was. I was probably about 8 when I realised that my opinion was not welcomed because I used
mm,
to see through people, um, and I used to see their when somebody wasn't. Oh, look, the one story I remember really clearly is I lost my father, and he'd been gone for a couple of years, and my auntie introduced my mum to this man, and when he left, she goes to me, "Oh, he's pretty nice, isn't he?" And in my whole being was just like, no. But I
mm.
went, "Oh yeah, he seems pretty nice." Well, that was a disaster in our family. We were 5 children and he had 4, so they came together with 9 of us. And he was really great until they got married. And once they got married, he turned into he was a brutal man. So, but that innocence, it takes a lot to get it back because it gets shut down so early because when we are feeling innocent or when we are innocent, we observe more.
Mm.
Like our field is wide open to what's going on around us. So I find it really, it's taken me a long time to be able to come back into that place where I can feel comfortable enough to know that I can observe what's going on and I can speak it without any, like I'm not, when I observe it and speak it, I'm not doing it from a place of you're wrong or anything. It's just I'm making an observation. And it
Yeah.
takes a bit to get to that. Um, well, that's my observation, is it takes a bit to get to being able to speak without fear.
Mm.
Speak your own truth, and wherever it lands, it lands.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah.
I had a similar thing where it wasn't that I could see through people or anything like that. It was more that I was just speaking my truth. So
Yep.
if I observed something and I spoke it to the person or to the other person that it was happening to, um, because I was personally feeling that I was innocent. I feel that I was innocent when I look back because I was
Mm.
trying to do the right thing by the person who is being stabbed in the back or having something bad happen to them.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. So it's like that case of don't shoot the messenger. Because in
Yep.
my case, I was trying to save that person from heartache. And I
Yeah.
innocently, in that, in that, in that desire to, stop the bad thing happening, they shot the messenger and I was the messenger. So I was the one
Yeah.
saying to that person, this person isn't being truthful. This is what's happening behind your back, or this is what they're saying about you, because I would want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
And
I
we
would want to
can't.
know. I would want somebody to tell me if there was something
What was?
going on, and I was the one who would get the backlash because I was the one
Yeah.
telling the truth. And so I learned from a very young age that people don't appreciate when you come into their issues, or, if you are trying to do the right thing, they're not interested in the right thing. Which really shocked me. That was something that really shocked me, but people weren't interested in knowing what was happening behind their back.
No, no, because they want to live in their own fairy world,
That's right.
you know. But yeah, and and it takes a lot to be able to speak up and
Mm.
then not take the feedback personally. It's like this
Yes.
is information, I'm just giving it. But the trouble is mostly we have there's an investment for us in being able to speak that truth too. It's
Yeah.
like there is a little part of us that will go, for me, it was like about saving me in the family. I didn't want him
Yes.
in my family. So it
Yeah.
was like, so there was an investment in there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's like when we speak our truth, if we can, we're speaking it without any of our own triggers or our own investment in there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because usually somebody sent to me the other day, they said, in whatever the situation was, so what was your role in it? So
Mm.
it's like, what is your role in every situation?
Yeah.
And I've gone, oh, okay, I'm not just a victim here.
Yes. And
Yeah,
that's a good question. That's a good question because, like, if somebody had asked me that at the time, I would have been saying, in my mind, my role is the savior. My role is the person who's going to stop the bad thing happening. I'm the superhero. Because in my young, innocent mind, that's that was what I was trying to do. I was seeing something that was incongruent with what they were saying. I was seeing
yeah,
something and I was privy to information that I like, and I would put myself in that person's shoes And I would think if that was me, I'd want to know what was happening behind my back.
Yeah,
But
but do you hear that you have a savior complex? And you
yes,
probably still do.
yes, I do to a certain extent, but I'm now experienced enough and I have enough. Um, I think that innocence in me hasn't gone away. It's
No.
grown. It's grown, which I love that because now I know better. I still want good for those people, but I see that it's not my role. It's not my
Yeah,
I'm not the savior. I'm not the person who should be going in to save the day. So I
yeah,
can be in a state of observing what's happening and hold space for the people, but
yeah,
not be involved in it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
think to myself, if the
That takes a
person
lot.
it does. It does.
Yeah.
It
Mm,
takes a lot to keep that innocence intact and
yes.
keep that you know, because I was like, oh my gosh, like why are you attacking me? Why are you I'm trying to do the right thing here. And so I was
Mm,
confused. I was like, why is this happening? I don't understand why I'm getting attacked now. And it wasn't until I grew up and realized actually that my role is not they don't need me to come in and tell them what's happening. It's not my
yeah.
place.
No.
So it's difficult to learn that lesson and still want good for that person. It's
Yeah.
difficult because
And it's,
it's hard to say I got attacked and I'm the victim here and I'm the one who's looking like the bad guy and not be angry about that.
Mm.
And
mm,
not be like, oh, well, I'm never gonna, interfere
yeah.
anymore. And I'm,
That's
stuff
like
them.
the child having a tantrum.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But now if I see something going on, I will only say if I'm asked the question. I will
Oh,
only
okay.
give, yes, I will
Oh,
get involved
okay.
if somebody comes and asks me for the truth, if they're
Yeah.
interested in the truth. But otherwise, I just stay out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Mostly.
That's very unlike you, Mum.
Yeah,
No,
that's where I was going to
maybe
go,
not with my
mostly.
kids. Maybe not with my kids,
No.
but
Yeah,
with other people, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I
Mum
think
Yeah.
never
with you,
asked
Juliet,
me.
I've learned that a lot. What I've learned with Juliet is if I see something going on and I feel like I want to say something, I hold myself back and I will tell her that this is how I'm feeling about the situation. I won't tell her, you know. Do you agree with this, Juliet? Now, I mean, there was a time when I was telling you how like what I thought you should do, but I don't do that anymore
Yeah,
because I
I
learned
Mm.
that
think so.
lesson too. Because she's 21, she's an adult.
Well, yeah. They still sometimes need a little direction from mum, but
Yeah, but I think I need to be
they're always
like
going to
more.
be our children.
Yes, but I need to be more clever about it. I think, and not
Yeah.
so like
Just steer.
stomping on her. Yes.
Definitely.
Sorry,
I
Juliet.
mean, you
Yeah.
can
Well,
try.
we're both mums.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess you can try to tell me what you like. A mum can tell their uh grown up child what they think is the truth, but I won't listen. Well, I will. No, I will. But like, no, I didn't mean
Only
it
if
like
you
that.
want
I
to.
will listen, but it doesn't mean it's true for me. So I think that when mum says this is how I'm feeling, it opens
Mm,
up for more of a discussion instead of
yes.
like in the past. Yeah, mum would be like, I think very protective, mama bear, and would yeah, kind of give me what her perception of what's going on as a
Mm,
direct truth.
Mm.
And I think yeah, but it's not like that anymore. So
no, I think I did it maybe 3 or 4 times, like big ones, and it was, you know, trying to explain to Juliet why that was my truth and why I felt like this was the right course of action.
mm,
And of course, because Juliet isn't as old as I am and hasn't been through as many experiences as I have, um, she didn't agree with some of the decisions that I was making, and saying to her, "This is the course of action we need to take." And I think it was because she was feeling like I was blocking her experience of the
yeah.
situation. She
And you
felt like,
know, I do think that as parents we do that as well.
mm,
You know, just thinking about uh, watching in playgrounds where parents are going. So we're going back to innocence, where
yeah,
parents are going, "Oh, don't do that. Be careful. Oh no, don't go there." Like we have this protective nature, but
mm,
we don't allow our children to explore
mm,
themselves and their range of abilities, because if you watch a baby when they learn to crawl up and down stairs, they don't usually fall. It's quite unusual for a baby to fall downstairs because they're exploring their own abilities. And we
mm-hmm.
do sometimes get in the way of that. And I think that's
Yes,
part of how we close down innocence, is we
yeah,
close it down because we have our own fears going on inside, and we shut others down because of our own fear.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Mm.
And I
Yeah, I do.
think
Yeah,
the irony of that situation that you just
yeah,
talked about, Bev, was that I was trying to protect her innocence in a lot of those cases.
yeah.
I was
Well,
trying
that's
to,
right.
yeah,
Yeah, we do. We
yeah,
try to protect, but
mm,
actually, every soul comes in with the experiences they're going to have in this life.
yeah, yeah,
Whether we, as this person, agrees with what that person's doing, it's
yeah.
actually not. It's not up to us, really.
No,
It's like
I've
no.
I've also found in my experience that innocence has this really strong misconception with people, and like comparing innocence to sexual or sexuality, kind of.
Oh,
And one thing
yeah,
that, like, I
yeah.
think
I
when
agree with
we,
that.
yeah, and I
mm,
think when we put those connotations on innocence, it's now become, especially towards women, a thing that can be taken away. And that's
oh,
also
yes,
for kids too, especially for women, yes, but just as a generalization, is something that can be taken away, or that's something that
Yes.
needs to be protected. And I think, something that was just coming to me while we were having this discussion is that innocence goes so, so much beyond that. I actually don't even think it really has anything to do with, um, you know, se anything sexual. Like, I really don't even, like, when I think
mm,
about my own innocence and the childlike soul, there really is no, I guess, at the innate form of innocence, it really cannot be taken away. It's something that's so innate and part of all of us. And I think I've done many things in my own life to cover it, or like overlap it, or
yeah,
um, kind of hide it away, because I did believe, oh, that person stole this part of my innocence, that, like, giving my power away by saying that my innocence was stolen through my own experiences growing up. But yeah, I think we as
mm,
a collective should look at innocence in the way that we're talking about today, with the childlike spirit and the outlook on life and that kind of aspect more. Because I mean, it's just
mm,
so, in music, it's like when all the pop music going around, it's all about losing your innocence. And like there's a song growing
Oh,
up right now, like
yeah.
that's blowing up, and the main like line that keeps getting repeated is losing all my innocence. And like
Oh,
it's such a narrative today.
Yes.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah, it really is.
yeah. And because I actually live quite, I guess, an isolated life. I'm isolated from young people, so I'm not actually hearing the music that younger ones are listening to. I put my Spotify on, choose what I listen to, so I'm
Mm,
Yeah.
not even in there. So for me, my innocence was, when I look at innocence, it's about our childlike wonder that lives inside of us. You know, like
Mm.
I went out um, to this beautiful place called Waitunika the other day and just sat on the rocks and watched the waves and just felt, like that to me fills me up. I
Yeah.
didn't need any of the other stuff going on. I could just be filled by the wonder of being in nature.
I
Yeah.
love
So
that.
yes,
That's beautiful.
Juliet, I mean, though I hadn't actually thought, but that is definitely an overlay, isn't it? That, and
Yes.
the way that our movies and our music and all of that, it puts it puts that within us. I have been watching a few movies and I'm like going, scratching my head, going, now why are we needing to know this? Why is that becoming very obvious? It's a program within our world. Um, yeah, yes.
Yeah. Juliet, you brought up such a good point, and this is like an aspect of innocence that as a parent, it it's on my mind because I feel like society is sending messages to young people that innocence isn't, like you said in the beginning, innocence is like naivety and it's something negative. That
Mm,
spin on innocence, it's like underappreciated in I feel like I underappreciated it when I was growing up. Definitely
mm,
coming from my own point of view, it was
yeah.
something that, you know, you wouldn't talk about it with your friends. You wouldn't say, I'm proud of my innocence, or
Oh God,
I'm
no.
no, you wouldn't say, particularly back in the 80s and 90s. It was just like, no. And there
No.
wasn't like, it was how many boys have you kissed, and how many, talking about the sexual side of innocence.
How many
And
sexual encounters have you had?
yeah, and
Yeah.
it was like a badge of honor to
mm,
We
have.
were There was a revolution happening then, like in the 70s and 80s. There was
Yeah.
a like women were coming out and going, actually, I'm here.
Yes.
So yeah. So but I
Yeah.
think we've gone to the other extreme now. Yeah, I remember when Madonna started strutting around in with hardly
Yes.
any clothes on, and my
Yep.
girls are watching, and I'm like, it
I
just
loved Madonna.
oh,
Madonna was like
so
my hero.
yep,
And
she
I
was my
remember her
daughter's
coffee
hero
table
too.
book.
Her
Yes.
and Michael Jackson, the two of them
Yes.
together.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I
they
remember
were like,
I yeah, it was she was revolutionary. And
yeah.
I remember her coffee table book. She came out with a coffee table book of all photos of her. And there was one photo that I still remember to this day, is of her standing on the side of the road, hitchhiking naked. She was
Oh,
completely naked. And
yep.
I had never seen in my life the pride in a woman of her body like that, and of,
Yeah.
exposing herself and just celebrating her sexuality like that, and it was, oh my goodness, it was the talk of
Ah,
everyone was talking about it, and
but
how
see that that was celebrating her sexuality.
Yes,
Now, yes, not just her pride in her body, like
exactly.
why does our naked body um match with sexuality? Why can't our
Mm.
naked body just be our naked body? And I'm sure there's a
Yeah.
Yes,
lot of nudists out there would agree, it's just a
yes,
naked body. And that
yes,
part, that is our innocence. But when we put a naked body and sexuality together, that's not about
yes.
innocence, is it?
No.
Well, that's just how I feel. It's
Yeah.
not.
And I
But
didn't
it's like,
I see that was the thing. We didn't it wasn't something that it were to me, I didn't think like that, Bev. I wasn't asking those types of questions back then.
yeah, no,
I see it now. I can see it now after
yeah.
having experience in my life. I see now when I look back. I mean, hindsight is 2020 vision, isn't it? You know,
Well,
you get
sometimes.
you get a lot
Sometimes
of
I still like my
insight.
rose-coloured glasses.
I love that. I love that. My rose-colored glasses, I've lost them. I don't know where they are.
Oh, look, put them back on. The world needs, you need to see the world a bit more rosier than the way that it's being portrayed at us at the moment.
Yeah, you're so right. We really do.
Mm.
But yeah, I didn't see what I saw was because I grew up with a lot of shame around nakedness
Oh,
and a lot
oh
of
my God.
shame,
Yes,
yeah,
I think all
around,
of us did.
yeah,
I
and
don't know
sex
whether
was like,
Juliet did, but boy, it certainly was in my family. Oh no,
yeah, it
don't
was,
see me. Don't
yeah,
see me.
Mm.
yeah,
Mm,
and it was like I don't know. m- My dad was very he grew up Italian. He grew up in the war, and he had three brothers. He didn't have sisters, and so his idea of um dealing with women was respect. Women
yeah.
deserve respect because his mother was the only woman that he grew up with, and he had a very great deep respect for women, for the feminine.
Oh, he must have had a
And
great mother then.
she was she was my mum was more the controller. She was the
No, no,
boss.
he must have had a great mother.
He did. He did.
Yes.
He
Because
did.
you've got to
He
earn respect. You can't actually just, it doesn't just come. It's like, but it's
yeah,
about it being earned.
she
Mm,
was his mother. When I look back at my nana, she was a big woman. She was very round and large, but she was
yep.
gentle and kind, the most gentle and kind person you would ever meet. And my father's father was a tyrant. He was
Ah,
one of five boys,
yeah.
and I've spoken to other family members who knew them because I only knew my grandfather. I didn't know his brothers.
Yeah.
And every single person who talked about my grandfather talked about how mean he was, and all his brothers, the four other boys, were all beautiful men, and he was the tyrant out of the five of them. And
Was
he
he the
used to
eldest?
beat he I can't remember, actually, I don't remember,
Yeah,
but he
because
used to
usually the
beat my
eldest
grandmother.
cops it. Oh,
He used to beat, maybe he was because he used to
yeah.
make my dad cop it because my dad was the eldest of three boys, and he would
Yeah, I don't know
he would
what
get the
that
brunt
is.
of it.
It's because I think it's because parents are trying to learn to be a parent, and the first
Yes.
one is like we just jump on them. Um,
Yeah. Do you feel like
but
that, Juliet? Because you're
Hmm?
the first. Did we jump on you?
Oh, no, I see myself as definitely the practice dummy.
yep.
I definitely was the practice dummy. And yeah.
Well, we do. So, and I think that we as parents, especially when the first one comes along, try to squash that innocence
Mm,
and get them to grow up really fast and achieve goals and do stuff. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, the ABC. if anybody's in Australia, the ABC is promoting, I can't remember what the reading eggs, I think they're called, for 2-year-olds. And
No.
what 2-year-old actually needs to read? I mean, could we just wait until they're interested in a book? And you
Mm,
know,
Yes.
yeah, it's why I love the Steiner School. It's like they just encourage the kids to get to where they are when they're ready. It's
Yeah.
like we've become over in intelligent and oh, sorry, the word's just gone out of
Intellectualized.
my head. Yeah, in, that
Intellectualized.
word.
I love you, Bev.
Um, yes, that word.
Yeah, that word.
Instead of actually being able to come from our, our pure essence.
mm,
You know,
Yes.
it's like book learning. It's like, I think I read something the other day where it says, and we're at the end of your life. Are you going to want to see all your certificates and your medals and things, or you want to see your loved ones? What,
Yeah.
you know, you can't take anything else with you but the love that you have received and that you have given.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's like,
that's very true. I
mm,
Yeah.
yeah, I think when we let a children, a child um flourish and form and freely into who they are, life becomes a lot easier, even in
mm,
adulthood for that kid.
yeah.
Like, because there's not so much pressure. I think, well, because school gives kids enough of it. School is
Yes. So
horrible.
true.
Ah,
Yeah,
So
like,
true.
you know, they started school. I don't not sure that they do now because I've been out of classrooms for a long time. But everybody was in rows, like the desks and the chairs were all in rows, and there's these little kids having to sit for 6 hours a day with a bit of play and a bit of, but that's a long time for a
yeah.
child to be sitting, and now we
Yes.
expect them to go earlier. It's like,
I it
uh,
honestly it makes no sense to me because in we look at even just the past 10 years, how much has changed.
yeah,
School is such an old concept, such an old tradition. It's been 100 years since the classic classroom has been implemented, and it's
mm,
still exactly the same.
Yeah.
How do we
yeah,
have these like cell phones and like AI and stuff, all this major um like technology and all this moving forward. But then when it comes to school, it's the
Mm.
same, not only the
yeah,
same setting in the classroom, it's the same standardized testing. It's the same,
yeah,
like, it's everything about it is literally the same as when, like, even just the grading system, the A, B, C, D, or to F,
F.
right?
Yeah.
Was
Even
where I
that,
was. F.
yeah, well, even that is from, Victorian times when they, like the whole story behind that was through meat grading. So, like, meat would have a grade of A, B, C, D,
Oh,
um, to F,
I
right?
didn't know that bit.
And so they implemented that into school, the same thing. And it's all like school was a whole concept and innovation to get kids to work in factories. It was
Yes.
literally
Exactly.
a like the middleman to get a child from running on the streets, being a kid playing, to them getting them used to an environment that keeps them, in such a horrible, mindset and setting to then go work in a factory with that linear
Exactly.
life. And yet no kids go and working in a factory. Well, actually, that's a lie because in a lot of countries there are a lot of children working in factories. But when we talk about, in countries that have these education systems, this is built for like apparently it's meant for kids to go to uni and to become doctors and all this stuff. But like no wonder the world is so like rigid when
Oh,
we're raising kids in this format. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And we're learnt to be um we're learnt that intelligence is passing grades, and that's what
yeah,
intelligence is. That's what kids believe being smart is. And I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. And
so
on
sad.
that topic, on that, Juliet, is that they don't even tell themselves that they're smart. They're being told by a test that they're smart, and by a
yes,
teacher, and by a university, and by a certificate, which comes back to what you were saying, Bev. At the end of your life, are you going to be wanting all your certificates around you, or do you want your loved ones? And what are we
yeah,
focusing on here? That's the question I
exactly.
wanna know.
Yeah.
The answer I want to
Well,
know is, what are we focusing on here? What are we teaching
well,
our children is of value in their lives?
well.
They're not
I
telling
know.
themselves.
I learnt about European laws, wars and things, and I'm like, excuse me, but I live here. That doesn't,
Yeah,
this is not my world. But we had, and I didn't learn our history. I didn't. Nobody wanted to talk about the history of Australia. They wanted to
Yeah.
yeah,
talk about everything else outside of us.
yes,
So we're not taught what we really need to know.
And
We needed to know
oh,
I
how
wasn't
bad we
interested
were.
in. Yeah, I wasn't interested in the
yeah.
stuff they were teaching us, and so
No,
why would
I
I
spent all
study
my
to
time
get
looking out the
tested?
window.
Yeah,
It's so
Yes,
I oh my gosh, I'm gonna have a little rant about this because the number one, history is such an important subject. I believe I am a bit biased because I love history, but I also think just like English does, just like um, math does, it teaches us about ourselves and our universe. I think, you know, we are just walking through life blind if we aren't reflecting on the past of, our mistakes, of our history of this planet. And in school, I remember opening a textbook and learning about ancient Egypt. And it's just one example. And I bring it up because it's like the most classic example of a straight up lie being taught to a class. But I would open up that textbook and we would be taught that they built ramps to build the pyramids. And this is like a heavily debated topic. I know this. But I was taught by that teacher that this was fact, that they indeed
yep,
built ramps and this is what happened. And I think, well, first of all, that's a lie,
yep.
absolute lie. And I've seen that in so many other aspects of like the subjects that I'm
Well, of
taught.
course, history's written by it's either written by men, mostly it's written by men, but
Yeah,
it's also written by the conqueror.
yeah, yeah.
So so
Same
it's
with the
always
Bible.
skewed.
Yeah.
yes.
We could learn from history, but do we?
What do
No.
What
we
I'm
learn?
seeing happening in our world now, seriously, I've been saying for a long time that it used to feel to me like we were back in the French Revolution. You know,
Mm,
it was like the minions rising against the ruling class um, back in that French Revolution. But now I'm starting to see it's even worse than that. We're like in the Nazi period, and
yeah.
Mm,
and everybody's just got their head under the blanket or their rose-coloured glasses on, and yeah, it's like it's happening, and we're not learning. We haven't learnt to take that history and apply it to what's happening now.
And you know why, Bev? It's bringing us back to the beginning of the conversation, is that people don't want to know the truth.
Yeah,
People would rather have their, yeah, people would rather
yeah,
live in their fantasies
Yeah.
than know the truth.
Well, the truth
yeah.
is really hard to face. Like
Yeah.
I talk a lot, so I have a lot of people ask me, what's it like in Australia? What are the Aboriginals and like what's the dynamic with the Aboriginal Australians? And I don't know why, but especially in the UK, a lot of people ask me this. And so I tell them my experience, I tell them some of the horrible things that happened during, the colonization, which is the Brits. I know I'm
Yep.
by descent also British, but it was the Brits that did it. And they don't even know. They didn't even know what they were doing, like what
Are you
the history of
serious?
their country. They don't, yeah, they
They don't
know
realize they
obviously about the
colonized Australia.
convicts. Hmm?
Yeah. They don't
Yeah.
know that the Britain
No, they know
colonized
about the
Australia.
convicts, but they're never taught about the colonization of the Aboriginal people. They're
Wow.
never, so they're taught about the convicts that come over, which that in itself, even the convicts situation is quite horrible. But they're not taught
Yeah.
about the soldiers and Captain Cook and the way that the Aboriginals were treated and the torture. And they're not even aware that like these are grandparents that are alive today that went through this. Like they don't even realize
Oh,
that.
look, it was only in the 60s they were still
Yeah.
classed as flora and fauna.
That's
I
They
I
right.
were,
tell yeah, I
yeah.
tell them they don't know.
Do they know that the English invaded America, it invaded India, it invaded Australia? Do they even know what the damage that's been
Yeah.
done around the
I
world?
Well, they're not. I think they definitely know. Well, like they definitely know, but they don't. They're not taught it. They're not taught it, and there's a lot
No,
of
it's because
yeah.
we don't want to know our shadow aspect,
No, yeah,
and
See,
that's actually a lot of the healing that I work with is looking at shadow and
yeah,
how shadow impacts. So when it's on a broad scale, there's shadow, this is a collective shadow,
yeah,
yes,
you know, that's all the disowned stuff that's just sitting out there. There's no ownership of it.
yeah. And I think
Mm,
it's really difficult for people to admit and say, like, I mean, uh, this is actually an interesting part of this conversation because you go to somewhere like Germany and the Germans are very like they feel they feel remorseful about the war, the Second World War and Hitler and everything. And it has really affected their society on a mass scale because that
yeah,
shadow aspect is actually like it has cast a, a very sad
it's cast a
um
shadow over the place.
yeah, it's cast
Yeah,
a sad shadow over the whole country. And it's
yeah,
something that has affected people now who live there and who grow up there. And I think that that shows the opposite side of this phenomenon that we're talking about, where the shadow has taken over and it has created like
yeah.
this massive, deep guilt in society over there. But then you get the
Mm,
other side, like in Britain, where it's not talked about at all. It's
mm,
like
yeah,
completely omitted from their psyche, and they don't think about the spread of colonization around the world and the destruction and you
and
know
the impact it's had on people. Yeah,
yes. So we need. I think that's a good um, example of needing a balance of that, needing the balance
yeah,
of the light and the shadow. We understand that our ancestors did this horrible thing. How do we, how do we balance this? How do we look at our shadow without hating ourselves?
yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
question,
well,
isn't it?
yeah. For me, it's like finding our shadow, but integrating that and knowing that we are um, a bit like the Chinese symbol.
Yeah.
There's in the dark, there's a little bit of light, and in the light, there's always a little bit of dark. We cannot
Yes.
be one thing or the other.
Yeah.
But it's like actually integrating those parts of us and understanding our reactions to things, that what our triggers are, and you know, navigating that with a lot more ease. Um,
Yeah.
I certainly know my own triggers, but if I hadn't have done my own shadow work, I wouldn't know those triggers. I wouldn't
Yeah.
know those parts of me that get ignited by outside influences.
Yeah. And in
Yeah, so
doing my shadow work, I've rediscovered my innocence in that, and the importance
yes,
of
yes,
personal
exactly.
innocence in that. It's like the beautiful wrapping paper. That's how I see it. It's the wrapping
Yes,
paper
we're
around.
unwrapping all the gold, you know.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
how I see my innocence now. It's like in the 80s, it was, I couldn't give it away fast enough. It was like
yeah, that's
a
right.
badge of honor to not be innocent, and to, what Juliet was saying, it was
Oh,
like, it was a yucky thing. It was
Well,
it,
I
you were
sorry, Mum. I just
it's
had
all right.
something come up
Yeah.
on that because no wonder you, especially as women, wanted to get rid of it because of the media and the content at the time. I watch interviews of on live television in the 70s, 80s, 90s with Brooke. One of them's like Brooke. She was like a really famous actress. I think her name was Brooke something, and she was like
Brooke
really
Shields?
attractive.
Brooke
Um,
Shields.
yes,
Yeah.
and and the way that these hosts would talk about her, and her whole thing was she was innocent, she was young, but she was gorgeous, and she was like, um, all these men were like creeping on her. Same with Britney Spears, same thing. You had fully grown men talk to her. Like I remember one quote I can recall was this guy interviewing her and saying, "Well, everyone, you know what everyone's talking about," and she's like, "No, yeah, everyone's talking about your breasts on TV." And it's like, there's this whole thing of, you know, the girl coming into womanhood and that innocence, and it's already such a confusing time. And yeah, like there was this weird, grotesque thing about innocence and men wanting to steal it or like wanting to. I didn't even know how to put words to it, but it was just like gross. So
Yeah, it
no
was
Yeah.
creepy.
wonder you didn't want to hold on to it
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
felt unsafe.
Because yeah,
Yeah, it
it felt
was.
unsafe, and
Yes.
and yes, because yeah, I think what was the name of that series that they had? Mad Men. Is it
Oh,
Mad
yes.
Men? Yeah, and that was like the way the men treated the women in that was just exactly what used to happen in offices.
Yes.
The women were just, you make the coffee, do the typing. It was like there was no thought about the fact that we might have any intelligence.
Yeah.
So it was like really, we were null and void, just handy little robots for them to order around and use it for their sexual pleasure.
Yeah.
And I'm really
And then
happy to see,
the 80s, women were
oh,
like, okay, well, if that's how we're going to be treated, we're going to take ownership
here
of
we
that.
come. Here
Here
we
we
come.
come. And it was, the shoulder pads. It was we're
Oh,
gonna, yeah, we,
the
you know,
permed hair, phew, big hair.
yes, it was like
Yes,
here we are, and we're not going to be ignored anymore.
yeah,
And that then led into the in. So we went from the flower power love. era of the 70s into the empowerment,
Women, yeah,
women can do what men can do in the 80s, to then in the 90s we had the Spice Girls, and it was like, we're here to be part of this. You're not going to ignore us anymore. Basically, that was what they were saying. Girls are not going to be ignored anymore, and we're going to take our place.
yeah,
And I think in my life, seeing that whole transition, because I was part of it, I
yeah,
was part of that 80s power thing, right? I was a powerful woman.
yeah.
And
I was busy
and
with
I was
children.
throwing away my innocence, and I couldn't get rid of it fast enough, and I was like, I want to be a woman, I want to grow up, I want to be empowered, I want to have control over my life and all of this stuff. And it's come full circle now where I've done my work, my shadow work. I've realized that, some of the paths that I was taking may not be what I thought they were and what I was being told they were. And realizing innocence is not what I thought it was. It's something to be cherished.
No,
It's something to be explored. It's something to be proud of.
yeah,
And if innocence can take its rightful place in society, I think that that would be a huge contribution to things like kindness and the importance of, relationships and
compassion and empathy
yeah,
and
yes,
yeah, and
exactly.
communicating from the heart. You know,
Yes.
um, I think about myself sometimes and the fact that I'm sure people think I overshare. Like I overshare, but
Thank God
I
you
do
do, because we wouldn't be having a show.
it. But I think I do it because I do it from a place of innocence. I don't think anybody is going to use what I tell them.
Mm,
I don't think they're going to use it against me. I'll go, well, what are they going to do with that? I
Yeah,
just say it how I'm feeling in that moment. You ask
yeah,
me a question, I'm going to tell you that answer. I
yeah,
don't ever think about what somebody might do with that information. I'm like, well, really, what are you going to do with it? Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Who's telling you that you shouldn't be doing that, that they'll use it against you? Who's saying that to you?
Oh, it's just the way of the world. Like people go, you're oversharing, or you
Yeah,
you
right.
keep on, yeah. It's like, um, yeah, it's just the way of the world. It's like, what are they doing with our data? It's like
Yeah,
all of that.
right.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
yes, I've heard that for a long time. But
Yeah, I've heard it too. That's why I'm asking you, because people
yeah,
say that to me too. Is like, and also I think I I'm an oversharer as well. I consider myself in your good company, Bev. Um, and I think there have been times when people have tried to use that information against me, and
yeah,
like,
I'm sure
you
they have
know,
against me, but they don't do it in front of me. They do it behind my back. I'm like,
yeah.
oh, well, okay.
Yeah, and then is it any of your businesses if it's happening behind your back, which is the question I'm asking myself all the time now, because I don't want to be the savior. It's like it's none of my business.
No, and the other thing is like as many people as you know, there is as many versions of you. Everybody has
Yeah.
a different idea of who you are. I'm like,
Yes.
oh well, I know who I am. Whatever you think of me, none of my
Yes.
business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly
Yeah.
the point. Mm.
Hey, there's
I
there's something that's been going on in my mind for a few weeks now, and just before we finish, I'd like to just share that if that's okay.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
about it's about grounding. There's
Okay.
this whole thing around grounding. Go outside, put your feet on the dirt in the dirt for 5 minutes, or be with nature or whatever. And I'm like, that's not grounding. That is like you can you can do that. It's something to do, but unless you're totally connected to the earth, you're not grounding. Just going for a walk barefoot is not going to ground you.
Yeah, right.
And the grounding comes from actually bringing all of you back into your body instead
Oh,
of
so
out
true.
here searching for things that are outside of you. It's like bring all your aspects back into you.
Yeah,
And that's grounding. That's being anchored into your body.
yeah.
It's just been a little thing of mine, and I thought I'd like to share it on here. Maybe somebody will be watching it and get something out of that. But just
Mm,
walking on the earth is not going to ground you. It may
yeah.
feel good for that minute, but it's actually bringing all of your thoughts, all of your everything, all of your aspects into here, into your
mm,
body. Mm,
yeah,
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
I
that
just want
can
to share that.
thank you. Yeah, because that I think that's that is I think you're talking to me because something happened recently and I saw Bryn leave his body. He just zoned
Oh,
out.
yep.
And I was like thinking to myself, how am I going to bring him back? And you've just answered it. You've just answered my question about
Yeah,
teaching him how to bring himself back into his body. I think that's so
yeah.
important because when it's uncomfortable, when this life is uncomfortable, it's so easy to
They want
zoom
to
off.
escape.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's why alcohol and drugs are so important in our society because
yeah,
we want to escape.
yeah.
Being
yeah,
That's
present
right.
in this world is painful, can be very
Yeah,
painful sometimes.
yeah.
Mm,
mm.
Thank you for
yeah,
I
that, Bev.
feel I agree with what you said as well. I think especially someone who right now I do live a life or have this year, especially outdoors, connected to nature. But this has been the most ungrounded I've ever been. So I think there's a
yeah.
lot of
So one of your things you could do, Juliet, is pull yourself from Australia back to into England. You know, like there'll be aspects of you that you've left in Australia. So it's
yeah.
like really anchoring all of those parts where
I
you
think there's a
are.
bit of me all across the globe at this point.
Well, how about you pull them back to you where you are
Yeah,
right now?
yeah. No, that's
Yeah,
true. And I do always wonder because I am a person who has a lot of different aspects of self. I mean, everyone has a lot of aspects of self, but
yeah.
what I mean by that is part of me wants to be an archaeologist, part of me wants to be an artist, part of me wants to sail around the world, part of me wants to be a yoga teacher. Like I could go on for an hour. Honestly, I'm not even joking. And the passion that I feel for every single one of these things is so strong and innate. And I always wonder, how do I pull it all into one mixture,
Oh,
one like embodied person?
Um,
So,
can I just say, Juliet, you're quite young and you don't
yeah,
find out all of that till the end of your life. And you go,
yeah,
oh, I did that back then. Oh, and I can pull on that bit. And, you know, whoever would have thought being a barmaid would help me in my life now?
yeah,
I would
Mm,
never, you know, I just thought I was pouring a beer. I didn't realise that I was learning how to listen to people.
mm,
mm,
I was learning about human reactions and
yeah,
I was learning about humans by being behind a bar.
mm,
So, you know, it's like you will find all of these things will meld together and some of the threads you will take will be stronger than the other threads.
yeah,
mm,
And you'll find you get
mm,
to, I think I'm going to be 70 next month. So, you will find that when you get to this stage, that all them things come together and you have this beautiful bundle of experience and knowledge and wisdom that you can share them with others. Not that you
mm.
mm,
can't
Yeah,
share now, but there's just more that you get
yeah,
to
yeah.
share.
Oh, I
Mm.
love
yeah.
that, Bev. Thank you for that. That's
Thank
No
awesome.
you.
worries.
I think
Yeah,
that's a great place to complete this episode. We've
yeah.
hit an
Yeah,
hour somehow. It went by very, very quickly.
did.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
thank
thank you
you.
very much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, and
Thanks for
thank you
being here,
everybody
Bev.
for watching.
Yeah.
And we'd love to have you on again soon, Beverly. So um, look
I'll
forward
be
to
in
that.
touch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, we will. All
Okay.
right.
Well, we'll see you
Okay.
all next week then. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.